From picking up dry cleaning for the elite, to nuking an entire civilization just to save his corporate quarterly projections, today we are breaking down the absolute madness of Hank MacLean's entire plan. We start out seeing Hank as the overseer of Vault 33, and he seems to be holding everything together. He is charming, he loves his kids, Lucy and Norm, and he seems to genuinely care about the community. You look at him and think, okay, this is the good guy. He believes it is the shared duty of every vault dweller to keep the candle of civilization lit, and we even see him enjoying innocent hobbies like gardening, watching movies, and leading a book club. He even organizes a trade with Vault 32 to get a husband for his daughter, which on the surface looks like a dad just trying to ensure the future of his family and his vault. But then we realize that Hank MacLean is not just some random nice guy who got lucky enough to be overseer. His story actually starts way back before the Great War. We find out that Hank was an executive assistant at Vault Tech Corporation, and not just for anyone, but for Barb Howard. It's funny because in the flashbacks, we see that he was basically a glorified errand boy. Cooper Howard explicitly calls him out later, saying Hank used to pick up Barb's dry cleaning. He was a fanboy who asked Cooper for an autograph and seemed kind of pathetic in the grand scheme of the corporate ladder. But clearly, he was loyal, and that loyalty is what got him a spot in the Bud's Buds program. This was Bud Askin's twisted little project where he took junior executives who were true believers in the Vault Tech mission and froze them cryogenically in Vault 31. The idea was to create a breeding pool of management material that could be thawed out over centuries to lead the other vaults. So Hank wasn't just born in the vault, he was born pre-war, frozen, and specifically, he was released from cryonic sleep on August 9th, 2268. After being sent to Vault 33 to integrate, he was elected overseer in 2271 and served in that role until the show starts in 2296. That context changes everything about his relationship with his wife, Rose. Vault 33 and Vault 32 were designed as breeding pools for the managers in Vault 31. So when Hank married Rose, it was essentially part of a corporate directive. They had 2 kids, Lucy and Norm, and for a while, things seemed fine until Rose started using her brain. She noticed that the water production in the vault was being siphoned off, which implied that people were actually living on the surface. Hank, being the good company man, shut that line of questioning down immediately. He didn't want her looking into it because the lie that the surface was uninhabitable was the only thing keeping Vault Tech in control. But Rose didn't listen. She took the kids and fled to Shady Sands. This is where Hank turns from a corporate stooge into a monster. He tracked them down and took the kids back to the vault, but he didn't stop there. He decided that the existence of Shady Sands, a civilization that wasn't under Vault Tech's control, was a threat to the ideal world they were trying to build, so he nuked it. He did this specifically to erase factionalism, which Hank believed was a blight on their world. He literally dropped a nuclear bomb on the city his wife was living in just to wipe out the competition and ensure the world could be remade according to Vault Tech's ideals. He dragged his kids back underground and told them their mother died of a famine. That is a level of gaslighting that is almost hard to comprehend. He spent years telling Lucy and Norm that their mom was dead when in reality she was up on the surface, turned into a feral ghoul by the radiation from the bomb he dropped. He even made up details about the famine, claiming he had even dropped to 128 pounds during this famine, and that the vault dwellers were starving but refused to resort to cannibalism, which the ghoul later points out sounds pretty suspicious. Fast forward to the events of the show, and we see the consequences of all this blowing up in his face. The trade he organizes with Vault 32 turns out to be a trap. The people coming over aren't vault dwellers. They are raiders, led by Lee Moldaver. When Hank welcomes them, Moldaver informs him of the passing of previous overseer Ian Jackson, which was a calculated lie. Moldaver is someone from the pre-war era who knows exactly who Hank is and what he did. The wedding turns into a bloodbath, and Hank has to show his true colors a bit. We see him drown Monty in a vat of pickles or whatever that liquid was, which was brutal, but then he gets cornered. He tells Moldaver he thought he knew who she was, and she replies with that chilling line, "Everyone knows who I am." Moldaver gives him a choice between saving his daughter or the vault dwellers, and it is unclear if she meant for the others to be killed or held prisoner. While he picks Lucy, he shoves her into a safe room and says the line, "You are my world," before ultimately getting tranquilized and kidnapped. This sets Lucy off on her whole hero's journey, thinking she is saving her innocent dad, not realizing she is chasing down a war criminal. Hey, speaking of ruthless corporate overlords who want to control your entire life, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button? It's the only way to ensure you don't end up frozen in a cryopod next to a brain on a Roomba for the next 200 years. When Lucy finally catches up to him at the Griffith Observatory, the truth comes out. Hank is in a cage, and Moldaver starts spilling the beans about everything. Hank tries to deny it, playing the "she's a crazy raider" card, but Lucy realizes that her dad is the one who destroyed Shady Sands and ruined countless lives. Hank still believes he is right. He thinks that what he did was necessary to ensure that civilization could be remade the right way, Vault-Tec's way. He is forced to give up the code for cold fusion, which is what Moldaver was really after. Cold fusion is this limitless power source that could change the wasteland, and Hank had been sitting on the knowledge the whole time, keeping it from the world because Vault-Tec wanted to control it. Then the Brotherhood of Steel shows up. Maximus frees Hank, thinking he is doing a good deed, but then Lucy tells Maximus the truth about Shady Sands. Maximus, who grew up in Shady Sands and survived the bombing, understandably freaks out and attacks Hank. But Hank is a survivor. He manages to knock Maximus out and steal a suit of power armor from a fallen knight. And just as he's about to get shot by the ghoul, he takes off. The ghoul asks him where his family is, and Hank just flies away, leaving his daughter behind and heading out into the wasteland. So where does he go? The final shot of the season shows him landing in the desert, staring at the skyline of New Vegas. This sets up a massive arc for the second season. Kyle MacLachlan, the actor who plays him, has talked about this shift in the character. He mentions that Hank is naughty, which is the understatement of the century, but also points out that Hank is warm, charming, and does have a family that he cares about. However, as MacLachlan points out, he also has a mission, which is what drives him, more so than his family. MacLachlan teased that Hank is going to be picking up the pieces of his plan that were put on hold. He is not just running away to hide, he is running to something specific. As MacLachlan teased, Hank has a history with people, and a background that is going to drive him to avenge these people. This implies that his journey to Vegas isn't just a retreat, it is a counter-offensive. He feels wronged, not just by Moldaver, but by the very state of the world that has refused to conform to his company's vision. There are a ton of theories about what exactly he's going to do in New Vegas. The most obvious one is that he is looking for more management. We know that Bud Askins is essentially a brain on a Roomba back in Vault 31, but there were other executives. The theory is that Vault-Tec's upper management might be holed up in a vault near Vegas, or perhaps specifically Vault 21, which in the game lore was a gambling vault, but the show might remix this. Hank might be trying to wake up the big guns, including Barb Howard. This would add a crazy drama because Barb is the ghoul's ex-wife, and finding her is the ghoul's main motivation. If Hank teams up with Barb, it puts him on a collision course with the ghoul in an even more personal way. It is possible Hank is headed to New Vegas to reawaken some other key members of Vault-Tec's executive team to re-establish the absolute monopoly Bud Askins wanted. Bud explicitly stated he wanted to outlast every other faction to create that monopoly. And since Hank is a loyal Bud, his journey to Vegas might be a rescue mission to break his bosses out of storage. In the game lore, Mr. House filled Vault 21 with concrete, but if the show changes that, Hank could be looking to uncork a bottle of angry Vault-Tec executives to retake the wasteland. My personal theory here is that Hank isn't just looking for Barb to say hello, he is looking for authorization. Hank has always been a middle manager, an executive assistant. He might feel paralyzed without a direct superior to tell him what the next phase of the plan is. So, waking up Barb is less about teaming up and more about finding his boss so he can go back to being a good employee. Another huge possibility is that Hank is going to meet Mr. House. In the game, Fallout, New Vegas, Robert House is the ruler of the Strip and the founder of Robco. We saw him in the flashback meeting where Vault-Tec proposed the end of the world, so we know they know each other. Mr. House, played by Rafi Silver in the show, was present when Barb and Bud presented their plan. Mr. House was always skeptical of the vaults, but he and Hank might have a common enemy now, or at least aligned interests in controlling the region. Hank is wearing Brotherhood power armor, which makes him a target, but if he can get to House, he might find sanctuary or an ally. Personally, I think this meeting is going to be way more hostile than people think. In the lore, House predicted the war and hated the Vault-Tec method of doing things, thinking they were incompetent. If Hank shows up begging for help, House might just see him as a loose end or a pawn. There is also the irony that Hank is arriving in a stolen Brotherhood suit, and Mr. House historically despises the Brotherhood of Steel for hoarding technology. Hank might have to ditch that armor fast if he wants to get through the front door of the Lucky 38 without being blasted by Securitrons. It is also worth noting that in the games, House is a man who respects intellect and capability above all else. Hank just lost his vault, his daughter, and his dignity. He looks like a loser right now. Unless Hank has something House needs, like access codes to Vault-Tec satellites or deep-buried override commands, House might just toss him out into the Freeside slums. There is a major plot point in the game involving a platinum chip that contains a vital OS upgrade for Mr. House's Securitrons and defense network. Hank might be trying to seize this, or perhaps deliver it. There is also the Hoover Dam to consider. In the game, the dam is the key to power in the West. According to NCR soldiers in the lore, the dam is moderately defensible, and despite the war, it still generates electricity. If Hank wants to rebuild America in Vault-Tec's image, controlling the power supply is step one. We know he knows about cold fusion, but maybe the dam is his backup plan, or a way to leverage power against the other factions like the NCR or the Legion. It could be the perfect place for the Brotherhood of Steel to install the cold fusion tech, so Hank might be trying to draw them into a trap there. Or, consider this, Hank might try to destroy the dam. If he can't have the power, and if the NCR or Brotherhood are using it to rebuild a society that isn't Vault-Tec approved, his cleanse the blight mentality might kick in again. He nuked Shady Sands for factionalism, so blowing up the dam to cripple the region so only Vault-Tec can save it seems right up his alley. Speaking of the Legion, some people think Hank might align himself with Caesar's Legion. They are ruthless, they are organized, and they hate the NCR. Since Hank just decimated the NCR's capital at Shady Sands, he might find the Legion to be useful idiots for his cause. He needs a base of operations, and a secured New Vegas is the perfect spot. He can't just operate out of a hole in the ground anymore. He needs an army and resources. This would also be a fantastic narrative mirror. The Legion is all about stripping away individual identity for the greater good of the state, which isn't all that different from Vault-Tec stripping away identity to create buds and breeding pools. Hank might look at Caesar's brutal methods and see a kindred spirit in enforcing order, even if he finds their Roman cosplay ridiculous. There is also the wild card of the Enclave. We know the Enclave is out there somewhere. They are the deep state, the remnants of the real government, and they have deep ties to Vault-Tec. Dr. Wilzig, the scientist with the cold fusion in his head, was fleeing the Enclave. It is very possible that Hank has been working with them all along, or that his plan involves handing the cold fusion tech or the region over to them. The Enclave shares Hank's ideology of cleansing the wasteland to start over, so they are natural allies. Some fans are even theorizing that the Enclave might have helped Hank nuke Shady Sands in the first place, providing the actual ordnance, which would mean Hank has been an active Enclave asset this whole time. If this is true, Hank running to Vegas might actually be him running to an Enclave extraction point or outpost, knowing that he has blown his cover and needs the heavy hitters to come save him. Meanwhile, back at the vaults, we have Norm. Hank left his son behind to figure things out, and Norm has proven to be way smarter than anyone gave him credit for. He hacked his way into Vault 31 and discovered the truth about Bud's buds. He is currently trapped there with the brain on a Roomba, and he is going to have to talk his way out of it or find a way to escape. The actors have hinted that Norm is going to have a rough time. Moises Arias, who plays Norm, said that his character has been in the vault for 2 or 3 weeks with little food and water, and is having conversations with the Roomba in his last breaths before he starts going loopy. Arias also dropped a massive hint that Norm isn't just going to sit there, he is going to be asking the brain on the Roomba, "How was my father like?" suggesting Norm is using this time to build a complete psychological profile of Hank. This intel is going to be crucial if they ever meet again. Arias noted that Norm's not very physical, so he can't fight his way out. He has to use his brain. Even more interestingly, Arias mentioned that this starvation and isolation leads Norm to one irrational idea that is the only option, and that he now has to lead a group of vault dwellers. This implies Norm might escape 31 and essentially stage a coup in 33, radicalizing the remaining dwellers against Hank's legacy. He might turn the breeding pool into an army. My theory on the irrational idea is that Norm might actually wake up the other managers in Vault 31, not to lead them, but to hold them hostage. If he controls the cryopods, he controls Vault-Tech's future. He could threaten to unthaw them all without proper procedure, killing them, unless Bud lets him out. He is also piecing together the full extent of his father's lies. If Norm gets out and finds Hank, it is going to be a very tense family reunion. Kyle MacLachlan mentioned that Hank would try to appeal to Norm's logic, saying, "This is the reasoning, this is why it's done," hoping Norm will understand intellectually, because, as MacLachlan put it, Norm is sensical. But Norm seems to be the moral compass that Hank lacks, so I don't think he's going to buy it. There is a real tragedy setting up here, where Hank might genuinely believe he can win Norm back with a PowerPoint presentation on why genocide is good for business, completely underestimating that his son has become the very thing Hank fears, a free thinker. Norm has spent his whole life being the other sibling, the one who didn't fit the mold, and that distance has given him the clarity to see Hank for the monster he is. Hank thinks he can explain away murder, but Norm is the one person who has literally seen the man behind the curtain, or the brain on the Roomba, and knows it is all a sham. So ultimately, Hank MacLean's plan is about control. It has always been about control. He controlled his wife, he controlled his kids, and he controlled the vault. And when he couldn't control the surface, he tried to destroy it. Now that he has been exposed and stripped of his immediate power base, he is going to the one place in the wasteland that screams power and excess, New Vegas. He is likely looking to regroup with whatever remnants of the corporate executive class are left to launch a counterattack against the forces that unseated him.